Hey everybody, let's take a look at converting percentages to milligrams. Now many times you'll see percentages written out on the medication bottle. Other times you may be asked to pull so many milligrams from that bottle that is only listed as a percent. Now the percentage after it may have something next to it such as weight per weight or W/W, volume per volume or V/V, or weight per volume W/V. All of those can be figured out quite a bit the same way, and we'll discuss that. Let's take a look at the first slide. The first slide gives a couple of examples that we might need to find. For instance, get me 250 milligrams out of a 20% solution, or get 500 milligrams out of a 5% solution. So you'll need to know how many milligrams are in, a 20% solution. You'll have to know how many mils to pull out of there. So there's different ways to get this done. I want to show you a way that I've always found to be easy that works a little bit different. It kind of visualizes it. And this is a little off the beaten path, but I find it easy for me and I kind of want to share it with you. So here is a gigantic percentage sign I've put across your screen, and it just says percentage equals grams per 100 mil. You can just memorize that right there and you'll understand this fairly well. Now, this particular way I'm showing it to you, it's weight per volume. I'm showing weight in grams divided by volume, and it's 100 mils. Always a percentage is grams per 100 mils. If it was volume per volume, it would be mils per 100 mils. The key part here is the 100 milliliters in the bottom, and the top being usually grams or milliliters. The way I usually remember this, and as I said, this is a little outside the box, is I will get the bottom zero of that percentage sign, and I just think I'll put a 1 to the left of it and a 0 to the right of it, and it'll have 100 on the bottom. Then on that top, I'll put a little G, a little downward curve at the bottom of that top circle, and it makes a G. And all of a sudden now, visually, I can see grams per 100 milliliters. Silly, I know, kind of dumb. Maybe if you're one that just kind of can memorize something, maybe just learn it as it is, as it's written. Otherwise, if you're helped pictorially, I usually just remember that G over 100, and it's right there in the percentage sign. So use that if you will, straight memorize it if you will. Either way, you need to know that percentage equals grams or mils per 100 milliliters. So another way to convert is the factor label method. You'll also hear this called dimensional analysis. This is used to convert from one unit to another. The only thing I really need is an equality between the two units. Now let's check out this example here at the bottom. Don't let that crisscross fool you. Basically, it's just my way of saying every time there's a vertical line, you're multiplying. But imagine I want to know how many centimeters are in 8 inches. Okay? How many centimeters are in 8 inches? The only thing I need to know is an equality between the two of them, and that's 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So the way I'll set it up is I'll have 8 inches, and I have 8 over 1. 8 inches is the same thing as 8 inches over 1, times my equality, 2.54 over 1 inch. Remember, that's an equality, 2.54 centimeters per 1 inch. All I have to do now is multiply across, and I'll get 8 inches times 2.54 and 1 times 1 inch. I'm going to cross out any labels that are both on a denominator and numerator opposite each other. So here I can cross out inches. I'll cross out inches. That will leave me with just centimeters. And there is the answer right there. That is how many centimeters are in 8 inches. Let's take a look at another example on the blackboard of this factor label method, because I really think you'll be able to help yourself out by knowing how to do the factor label method to do a conversion whenever you know an equality. Let's imagine that this prescription is brought in. It's Amoxil, 500 milligrams per teaspoon, and the doctor has written for 3/4 of a teaspoon to be taken twice a day. Now my question to you is, how many milliliters are to be taken per day? Well, let's just start off with what we know. We know we have amoxicillin, 500 milligrams per teaspoon. Simple enough so far. We also know that it's written for 3/4 of a teaspoon twice a day. I know you know your pharmacy shorthand by now. And the question is, how many mils per day? How many mils per day? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start out with writing our little factor label crisscross here. And I'm just going to write 3/4 of a teaspoon because that's what it's asked for. I know I'm going to have to convert this to milliliters, so I need to put an equality right here. An equality that uses milliliters and teaspoons is 1 teaspoon per 5 milliliters. Simple enough, correct? So all I need to do is multiply across and cancel out my common units. My units that I have are common are teaspoons, and all I have left is milliliters as my label, and then I can multiply 3/4 times 5. If you'll get your calculator out, you'll see that 3/4 times 5 is 3.75 milliliters. Again, very simple. Now that is how much is taken per dose. 3.75 milliliters per dose. But the question wasn't that, it was how many milliliters per day. Well, now we're going to have to look at this. BID, we're giving it twice a day. So I'm going to have to do 3.75 times 2 to get the correct answer. And that is going to be, it's going to be 7.5 milliliters. Let's take a look at our other problem we had in this lecture, and that's converting percentages to milligrams per milliliter. In our second Blackboard problem, I want you to be able to convert from percentages to milligrams per milliliter. For this example, convert for me testosterone 5% into milligrams per milliliter. Pretty simple here. We're just going to write testosterone and it's 5%. And the question is, how many milligrams per milliliter is 5%? Well, I told you whenever I see 5%, I like to think of it as grams per 100 milliliters, correct? I'll write it down here and make it a little prettier, where it's 5 grams per 100 mils. You're already seeing some factor label in here whenever you thought you were just doing a conversion. So now that I have that and we're factor labeling, I need to use an equality that will change me from grams to milligrams. Well, that's pretty easy. You've already learned that 1 gram contains 1,000 milligrams. Fairly simple, correct? Now all I'll have to do is multiply straight across. I can take out my common labels, which are grams in this case, and I will have 5,000 milligrams over 100 milliliters. But that wasn't the question. It was milligrams per milliliter, and of course it's understood that it is 1 milliliter. So what I'll need to do, the easiest thing I can do is cancel out my common zeros, which makes it 50 milligrams per milliliter. And that is the answer. We could have simply divided 5,000 by 100 to get our 50, which would be just fine, and I have no issue with you doing that. But the answer to the question is 5% is the same thing as 50 milligrams per milliliter. And there you have it. You've learned how to convert percentages to milligrams per milliliter. You've also learned how to basically convert anything as long as you have one equality that you're given. I understand this can be kind of a difficult concept, so watch the video a few times if that helps you. Work the material a few times. Do a few example problems. Once you get it, it's real easy. Once you get it, it's very, very simple. Once you just know how to manipulate the algebra. So use that on the test. You will get more than a few questions right by knowing this particular lecture.